Hey YouTube, today we're learning the basics of BrickLink Studio. Hey everyone and welcome to Brick Talk TV. I hope you're well. In today's episode we're going to actually be jumping onto BrickLink.com and checking out the Studio program that they offer. This is a free to download application that actually allows you to design different Lego sets and different Lego models using digital bricks. You might have seen this in previous videos which I've done around the rebuild of Bricktown, where I often lay out designs I have in my head just to understand how many pieces I need, and then I can export these and then order these on BrickLink itself. So in this episode we're actually going to concentrate on the basics of BrickLink. I'll show you how to download the application on your computer and where you can get it from, and then take you through an orientation of the actual interface that you get once you open it up on a Mac. So let's jump in straight away and we'll take a look at going to bricklink.com on your web browser. So here you can see bricklink.com, and you can see at the top here, here's the address that we've typed in. You just need to put in www.bricklink.com and you'll be taken to this page, and the rest of the URL you see here will be automatically filled in. I've done previous videos before on what bricklink.com is, and I'll put a link in the top right hand corner here so you can check out what that looks like. But essentially today we're going to be taking a look at Studio, and you can see at the top menu bar at the top here we have this Studio icon in red. If you click down here to download, this will take you to a page where you can actually download the application for free. And of course it's automatically detected that I'm on a Mac, so it's offering me the download for Studio 2.0 for the Mac. But you can see underneath here there's other options for 32-bit version in Windows, 64-bit version in Windows, and then some early access alternative versions. I've already downloaded this, but if you click on this, of course, it asks you to download saved executable file, which will install it for you. And again, there'll be an easy wizard that you can go through to click through to install the application. On a Mac, of course, you can drag it into your applications folder and that will install it. So now that's sort of done, I've done that in the background. Let's flip over to Studio itself and take a closer look. On my computer here, you can see down in the bottom, I've got this 4 coloured circles here inside a sort of diamond shape or a square or a rhombus called Studio. If you click on this, sometimes it asks you to update first before it opens up, and you'll get a sort of wizard. Other than that, you'll see this sort of black window start to load up. Once it's loaded the database, as you can see here, you'll be taken to the home screen. And this home screen here in the middle changes depending on what's currently going on. So at the moment you can see there's a BrickLink Designer Program Series 1, and they've announced that to start off on the 1st of February, where people can submit their own designs through this application, because you can sign into your BrickLink program account and you can submit your own designs, which if you've seen the BrickLink Designer program from previous years, and we've done a few reviews of those sets on this channel, you can actually get your own set made by Lego and distributed through that program. Previous examples I've purchased that you might have seen streamed on this, and I'll link in the top right as well for that, was the retro bowling alley and the Venetian city or houses that we've done recently. So there's various things here that you can click on if you want to. You can learn more about the application or start designing around this, but we're just going to close this off. And then this is the kind of screen that you'll normally get. So this kind of opens up, you'll see some of your previous creations. Here you can see a brickhead I made of myself. We've got a light railway train which I've been starting to build for Bricktown. And you can also see somebody else's design that I've downloaded here, so JK Brickworks light railway, to get some inspiration. And down the bottom here you can see other people's designs that they've submitted, which kind of just show up here just in case to get your interest, to see if you want to have a look at those. You've got the plus new or open, so you can open an existing file that you've already created. You can import a new one from somewhere else, or you can just create a blank one. So for this we're just going to create a blank one. And this is kind of the screen that you end up getting when you load in. So here is your sort of playing area, if you like, sort of where you're going to be placing all the bricks. You can see that I've got a grid turned on here, so you can kind of see where pieces are going to snap to, which I find quite important. So this option on the menu at the top here that says snap allows you to make sure that it kind of easily places bricks in a digital format. Otherwise you might see when we go through that they don't line up properly. So that's the sort of main canvas area. Down the left hand side here you can see this is where all your bricks are. So essentially you've got all the available bricks that Lego's sort of pretty much ever created. They do keep adding to this as new bricks come out, or maybe if people are putting requests in for older bricks. So you might not necessarily get all of the bricks that you need in here, but over time Lego is updating this, and Lego do actually own this application now, and this is their sort of go-to consumer designer program now. And then here you can got the sort of basically the families that you can choose from. So you've got standard brick, you've got round bricks, you've got modified bricks, slopes. I mean, some of these wordings will be familiar to you if you've ever used BrickLink and searched for bricks. You've got slope curves, you've got plates, you've got plates that are modified, tiles, round tiles, modified tiles, panels, cylinders, etc. So you can see all the Technic pieces are in here. There's all different objects. You've got minifigure pieces and accessories, you've got animals, plants, heads, bodies, torsos, all sorts of things. And essentially when you click on this is just going to filter this sort of panel under here. So if I click on plates, you can see now that I've got all the plates displayed just under here as well. I actually tend not to use this filter so much, and I suppose it's a fairly new addition. You've also got BrickLink categories as well. So if you click that through, you can see some of the categories that you'll see on the website as well. So they've changed it like base plates, you've got bionicles here, so you can see all the parts that were used in bionicles. If there's any other themes like cockpits, you can see things that are used in planes. But usually shapes is probably the basic one going on here. Just underneath then, of course, you've got all the pieces displayed here. So you can see you've got a search. So if I wanted to search for just 1x1 bricks, I could just type 1x1 bricks in, and now again it's filtered all of the available bricks that are 1x1 in nature. Of course, we've got ones that have got prints on, you've got ones that are taller, so you've got 1x1x3s, 1x1x5s, etc. And you can scroll through here and you can see all the different available 1x1s that we've got to hand. Or you can just scroll through, so if you get rid of the filter, you can just see all of the bricks that are currently in that colour. And you can change the colour by clicking on the colour option here. Here you can see an array of different colours that are available. You can obviously jump to specific like blues if you want to, and that filters on blues. But if you want to see all of the colours, you can scroll through and see all the different colour techniques that Lego has to offer on that particular brick. One thing that I found as a sort of a tip that helped me, or which I didn't do when I first started to use this application, was I didn't click this button down here that says hide unavailable parts. So if you click that, that will then modify the parts that you can see. So what this is basically saying is you can have all of the parts and all of the available colours, but you've got to bear in mind that Lego doesn't produce all of the parts in all of the colours. So if you start to design something and then you export something without this option turned on, you might be disappointed when Lego doesn't actually have, or Lego has never really made that part and that colour available together. So you'll have to go through and swap out the parts if you want to actually build your model at the end of it. So it's best to tick this option on. Then you know exactly that these parts are available somewhere in the world. Again, you might have to pay slightly higher prices if they're sort of rare pieces, but at least you're safe in the knowledge that these pieces were actually produced by Lego at some point, so they should be available. So make sure that this option is ticked on if you really want to build the instructions and build the actual set. If you're not worried about that, you just want to go freestyle and just build amazing things. A lot of people do that for Lego ideas, an example, just as a way to try to persuade Lego to start producing parts in those colours. So if you want to try and do that, by all means leave that option unticked, but I quite like to do that. You can also underneath here add favourites. So if there's bricks you use all the time, if you're doing a particular model maybe that needs lots of 1x2s in masonry bricks, you could probably add them as favourites so they're quick access, but I don't really use that. So those are the colours, and then these are the bricks. So if you wanted to actually then place a brick, so we've got some tan bricks here. If I want to place a 1x2 brick, I can hover over this 1x2 brick here. You can see a little bit of detail here, so it'll give you the part number, which is 3004. You've got the, obviously it's a brick, that's the category that it's in, it's a 1x2, and it does give you an indication of what the price could be. So if you're trying to build this, and that price is based on the marketplace in BrickLink, the colour that you've chosen, and the part obviously. And it's kind of saying it's $0.075 US per 1x2 brick. So it also gives you an indication of how much this model that you start to build could potentially cost you. I don't find it's always accurate because it does depend, of course, on the availability of those parts and how many sellers you have to actually go to, because you've got obviously postage costs on top of some of these purchases, but it at least gives you an indication. And sometimes it helps you find slightly cheaper parts. If you're worried about the cost being too much, you can maybe change the colour, or maybe you can change the part that you're using and sort of rescope the model to get a slightly cheaper part. So anyway, let's click on the 1x2. Once you've clicked on it, you can now see that it's now attached to your arrow. And then if you bring it onto the canvas, you can see now that you can place this, and you can see this sort of, it snaps to the sort of grid, if you like, based on where you're positioning it. So of course, with this option, you can rotate it. I tend to use the arrow keys on the keyboard, sort of do a 360 all the way around. You can also use the up and down arrows to place it horizontally and vertically, so you can turn it all the way around. So basically you've got free control of what you do with this. Then when you're ready to place it, once you've found your spot, you just press the button and that releases it. And then it also still activates another brick. So if you've got to put down several of these, you can start to just click around like that. When you finish with it, I tend to press the escape button on my keyboard like that, and then it gets rid of that. And then you can see these 4 pieces are now attached to the canvas. You can then re-click them if you want, and you can still use the arrows if you change your mind and want to reposition them. But you'll also notice when you click on them, you get this sort of little option up here, and if you hover over it, you've got a few things you can do here. So if I click on this circle icon, you can now see that I can tilt the option, or I can rotate it again. So I can rotate it any sort of degrees that I want. So if I want to get quite intricate and not do the standard sort of 90 degrees with the arrow keyboard, I can actually be quite specific in the angle that I put. And then you can do the tilting. So I can tilt it sideways, I can do it sort of at a slight angle like this, I can go back, forth. Again, gives you greater control if you're doing something a bit complicated like that. Also, you've got this option here with these arrows, and again you can kind of see we can position it slightly out again and play around with the positioning of this. I actually don't tend to use that option too much, to be honest. If you want to place bricks on top of each other, again, if I click on this brick again and now I'm activated it with a hand, I can just drop it on top, and you can see because I've got the snap, it snaps it to one of the studs that are sticking out of the brick. If I take off the snap option at the top here, as an example, so yeah, if we deselect the part and then unclick the snap so it's not blue anymore, if we go onto this now, you can see that it's a lot trickier, I find, to position it. And it will kind of let you go half over a stud, not over a stud. And you see when it sort of disappears, it's saying that it's not a connection, so you can't make that. And then you sort of have to fiddle around until you get it lined up. And then this can cause some gaps and things like that as well. So I prefer to put the snap option on, so you just click up there. Also, while we're up here, you can see the grid. So I said I've got the grid on. You can change the kind of grid if you want. So that's the parts place. You can see we've got these 4 parts placed down here, and you can start to see down the bottom here, again, we've got the number of the part, what it is, the price again, the size of it as well. You've got some options around here to find alternative bricks. So again, if you're trying to save some money, you can click on this and it'll change the panel over here to different bricks that you might be able to choose from. You can find compatible bricks as well. You can replace it, and you can copy a brick or copy a sort of a sub-model if you start to connect several bricks together. Over on this side, on the right hand side, you've got the color palette. So if you place this brick and it's currently in tan color and you think actually I want to change the color, you can scroll down here and you can see all the available colors. And what's quite good about this is the $ next to it shows you how expensive the alternatives are. So the blue violet color here is going to be quite a lot because it's got $3 signs, but we could swap it out fairly cheaply for like a bright orange one, and you can see when you select it, it now changes that color. And also you'll see that it shows you just below here the color content of the current model that you've got. So it's showing the 2 colors that we've actually got in this model. So when you start to build a more complex model and gets a bit more advanced, all of these colors start to come in. So if you're using quite a lot of certain colors, you can sort of place a color, you can place a brick down in a different color and quickly click on it and change the color to something that suits the model, which is quite handy as well. Down this panel at the bottom here is where we would do steps. So steps are basically like the instructions. So you do have the ability to generate instructions, and I'll show you that at some point. But you want to obviously try and construct them so that people can build your sets. So this is where steps comes in. So as an example, in step 1 at the moment, we've got these 4 bricks, but that might be too many bricks to place in the first instruction. So if we click add step, you'll then see step 2 appears. And what we can do is we can drag 2 of the bricks into step 2. And then what this does is, what we can do is we can actually see what the steps will look like when we're building. So what we do is we click on step 1 and we click on our little sort of glass icon here, and then we can see that we've got these videos that have appeared. So now if I click on step 1, it's only showing the 2 bricks that are available in step 1. And then if I click on step 2, you can see the next 2 bricks that are added. So as you start to go through and you start to build a complex kind of model, then you can use these to kind of get an idea of the build experience that people will be having. And then this is used when we render the instructions for people. So we'll see that later in this episode, so stay tuned. What else have we got? So along the top here, you've got different options. We've got the hinge option, we've got the different select tools. So you can select by colour, so you can select all the yellow bricks, you can select all the 1x2 bricks if you want. I don't really ever tend to use that, I just use the default select options, but you can see that there's different ways that you can maybe collect. So if we click on colour, maybe I want to click all the tan bricks, and now you can see it's automatically found all the tan bricks inside this model, and I can move them all together at once, which is quite handy, I suppose, if you're bulk moving things. Hinge, so if we click on a particular brick, so we click on this orange brick and click the hinge, then we get that option that we saw earlier, where we're able to rotate and also tilt the option. We've got the clone option, which will obviously duplicate the piece, so you'll get 2 of those. You can hide the piece, you can connect it as well to another piece if you want. You have a collision option here, which is talking about where you might have an illegal move or something that doesn't quite work properly. So you can click on that and it will try to highlight in the model where it thinks that your connections aren't quite as they should be. I do find this quite handy when you've got quite a large model, because sometimes you'll misplace a small plate or something like that, and this will kind of highlight that you might have some issues. Snap we've seen where you can turn this on and off, but I would advise that you keep the snap on. You can change the grid that's on the floor as well. Render is where we're actually going to generate this into real bricks. So this system is quite clever, that even though you've got these digital bricks, and obviously they look quite digital at the moment, you can render them, which actually gives you a photo of the actual brick. So if we actually click that now, you get this option here, and you can start to move these pieces around just by clicking on them and dragging them about. You can also rotate them by holding the right mouse key down and sort of positioning this round. So if I wanted our 4 bricks to look like this, put them in the middle, I can decide what quality I want the image to look like. I'll just leave them as usual for now, and then I'll just click render. Where do I want to save it? On the desktop, I'll just call them bricks for now. And now the system is generating a real sort of photo of these bricks, which is quite helpful when you're showing people your model. You don't want to show them the digital version, and it gives you a feel of actually what the colours will look like, and have you matched the colours together. So that's continuing in the background. You've also got the stability, so you can see whether this thing's going to fall over or stand up. So if you're building like an Eiffel Tower or something like that, that's probably quite handy. You've got an instructions option. So as I mentioned, where we've got these steps 1 and step 2, if we click on the instructions, this will now take us to a new area where you can edit the steps. We've only got 2 steps, so it won't be too complicated, but you can kind of see what these look like. And if we click page design, this is actually going to show us an instruction manual. So this should be familiar to you. You are able to customize sort of the appearance of this. You can see as you hover over it, you've got the ability to actually select certain aspects of the instructions. So if I want the parts to appear over here, I can snap them over there. You can see this is the first stage. If I'm not happy with that, I can select that. I can use these options up here to sort of rotate it to a different angle that maybe helps the person building the instructions see it easier. I can flip it upside down on its side. I've got sort of full control, and I can zoom in to make them bigger. If they're not too easy to see, I can make them smaller. And then you've got other sort of angled aspects here, sort of pre-built in angles. So I can put them like that, like this, like that. You can have them from the side. You can kind of just customize these based on what you think is going to be easiest for somebody to actually see the instructions. And then you can see step 2, we've added another 2 tan bricks at the back. And again, I can move this down here. You've also got the ability up here to insert certain aspects of an instruction manual. So you can add an image. So if you've generated like a front cover for these instructions, you can add a blank page into the actual manual itself and import maybe a Photoshop or one of this render that we're doing now onto the front page. You can add some text as well. So if you want to put some history or a title on the front cover, you can add some arrows. You can do the standard flip. So if we want to rotate this, or we're trying to indicate to the person reading the instructions that we've actually rotated this around, we just put the standard rotation. So here, for instance, if I click back on the main part here, click change steps, I might rotate it around and then use those arrows to indicate that compared to this, where the orange brick is on this side, I've rotated it round, and that sort of gives an indication. We can change the size guide as well. We're changing sizes, color guides, and we can do a bill of materials. So let me just do a bill of materials. So over here, what I'd normally do is I'd add a new page by clicking this option here. This will add me a blank page. And then if I go to insert and go to Bill of Materials, this is the kind of standard pages you see at the back of an instruction manual. So it will list out all of the parts, how many you've got, the numbers, etc. So you can see we've got 3 tan bricks in 1x2 and 1 bright orange brick. And of course that could be several pages long depending on how many parts you've got. And of course you can scale this down to fit more pieces onto one page. So if you end up with hundreds of pages of parts, you can scale it down and try to reduce the number on there as well. And so that's kind of how you do the instructions. If you're happy with those and you've done all the various customizations, you can press the export button here in the top right, and then you can export a PDF or a PNG image, and you can change the size and location of where it's going to be saved as well on your desktop. And then you can share the PDF with anybody that you that wants to see it. So I use this quite a lot. Let's exit this. It will go back into the model itself. So we've gone back into the model here. Let's just check where the rendering's at. So here you can see it's not finished yet. We're 74% done, but this is the kind of image that you'll see generated from our 4 bricks. We'll leave it for a bit longer. It's not quite there yet. So coming back to the canvas, you can do various other things as well in terms of the view. So if you want to move the whole canvas round, you'd right click and you just rotate round. So you can see different aspects of the model here, like that. You can zoom in and out by doing the wheel mouse or scrolling up and down on your keypad. So you can zoom right in or you can zoom right out to get a better aspect of it. If you right click on the canvas as well, which I do quite a lot, you can then set origin. So where is the sort of original part where you're going to be zooming in and out from or rotating around from. So as your model gets bigger, you might want to focus on a certain area. You would have seen me do this when I often look at the Lego City plan that I've got, because I'm moving around the different aspects. You can also sign in as well up here. So if you want to upload some of these designs to BrickLink for other people to buy or to just download and use, you can do that, which can be quite handy. You can export these files from the BrickLink Studio and you can upload them to the BrickLink website, where you can actually then part out all of the different pieces that you need, which then will allow you to purchase all the parts you need for your actual model just by doing that. So you don't have to go through manually and type all these different parts in. The system will automatically take the design file, understand all the parts, and then it will give you the wanted list. And I think I've done a video of that on the channel as well, so I'll stick that in the top right so you can check that out as well if you're interested in how that works. So let me just open up a larger file. So we'll open up, in fact, let me just open up a recent one, which would be the city one. So if you saw the light railway recently, oh, here we go. So the render's finished now. So this is kind of what the bricks look like now as a photo. Of course, they're not particularly exciting because they're just 4 bricks. But you can really see how this can bring the model that you're designing to life, and you can get a real good gauge for what it's going to look like when you're building it. And that stores as a PNG now on your desktop, so you can share that, as I said, or you can actually use that as the front page of your instruction manual if you wish. So here you go. Here's a light railway train that I've reconstructed from JK Brickworks train. And you can see now I'm just rotating around the model. If I zoom in here, you can see a closer look at the sort of train that I've got designed here. You can see it's sitting on a roller coaster rail, and you can see I've set up all the different carriages. As I showed you earlier, if I right click onto the canvas itself, I can set the origin now to further up the train, and now that sort of centers my rotation around the front of the train here. You can see here as well I've sort of got 3 steps, because I've actually got submodels within this one, so it's a bit more advanced this time. Step 3 is literally just the train tracks, where I've just plopped the train on top at the end. But I've actually created the front, which is the same as the back part of the train, and then one of the carriages, and I've just duplicated these models together. And once you've got these sort of models created, you can actually change this drop down here from main model to one of the models to get the step-by-step instructions for that. So you kind of end up with nested steps, if that makes sense. So if we look at the carriage master here, which is this train here, you can see that we've got several steps inside this one as well. So we've got the roof, which is a separate design file. We've got the under part of the carriage, which is a separate design file, and we've actually got the carriage itself. And all of that makes up the carriage master model, submodel. So if I moved into the roof, you can just see the roof on its own here, and then you can see that within this there's 5 steps required to create the roof. So step 1 will look like this. So we have a couple of plates here that form the base of our roof. Then step 2, we've added on top of these plates a couple of plates underneath. Step 3, we've added another one. Step 4, we've added some detail to the top, so the tiles have gone on, and then step 5, we've added the rest. So that's kind of the step by step which will appear in the instructions. So if we go to the instructions and we go to the page design, you can start to see the instructions here in terms of creating the train. You can see the bit by bit kind of build. You can see we're building the front carriage here, and we're building a submodel of this gear piece, and you can see how all the sort of instructions build up. And these are the kind of things that I then use to do my, well, first buy all the parts, and secondly then actually build some of the details in Bricktown. So those are the instructions. So that, I suppose, is just the close of a quick whistle-stop tour of the BrickLink studio and how you can kind of use some of the basics and orientate yourself around the layout. So just to recap, on this side you've got all of the library of bricks. You can change the colours. You can then filter and see certain parts. You can drag them onto the canvas if you wish and use them, place them about. We've looked at the ways that you can control the bricks using the arrow keys to rotate them round. You've got the tilt option as well, of course. And then we've actually started to split out some of these bricks into steps. So if I've added those 2 extra bricks now, I can add a step here, and I can select those bricks and just drag them into step 3. And I can change the colour either when I originally picked them by going into here and saying blue and then selecting a blue brick if I want to, stick that on top. Or if I've already placed it, I can click on the brick I want and I can click the blue option up here now and make that blue as well. And you can see actually now I've done that, there's a little exclamation mark here. That's actually telling me that this brick is not available in that colour. So if I click on that brick and then go up to the colour palette, it only shows me here the colours that are available, so I can reselect actually a colour that will be available in that brick, and I'll change that colour like that. So that's the whistle stop tour of BrickLink Studio. I hope you found that interesting and useful. If you did, put it in the comments below, and if there's anything that I missed or that you're not really sure about, also stick that in the comments below, and I'll either do a video or I'll answer your comments and queries in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, do hit that like button as it helps others get to see it. And also smash that subscribe button if you haven't done so already, so you can find out about more videos that are coming out. We'll probably try and do some more series on BrickLink Studio so you can get a feel for it. And we'll also be revisiting Bricktown, where you'll see some of these actual plans that I've been developing actually in real life and actually being built. And this is a great tool, I find, for actually helping me understand and plan out my city. So if you're ever building a city yourself, then do check this out. It's a free program. Try and have a go at it and get your head around it, because I think it will be very helpful for you in terms of how you build your cities. So until next time, stay safe and I'll see you then.